Judy and I are the chair and co-chair. We want to welcome you. As I'd sent you, our format tonight is real simple. We just want you to tell us briefly about your background, why you're running, what your priorities will be, and take up about 10 minutes with that. Then we'll open it up for Q&A with our audience. And then we'll give you a little bit of time at the end for closing statements. I think you're familiar with that expression, closing statements. So so you can take it from there, and we'll let you go in about a half an hour. Thanks.
All right. Well, my name is Richard Walsh, and I'm running for Oregon State Senate District 11. And just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I grew up in Oregon. I've lived here my whole life. And I grew up in a family of 9 with 7 brothers and 6 brothers and sisters, and 7 including me. I worked my way through college because I was able to get a good union job, and I was able to go to a community college, and I basically did community college until I couldn't go any longer. And then I went to Oregon State University, and then ran out of money again and went back to work and went back and forth, and finally graduated from Portland State University. And then I went to University of Oregon Law School, where I finally, when I graduated from there, I got a good job at an insurance company that was recruited to represent insurance interests. And I did that for a little while, and then I realized that hurt my soul. It was a painful experience, denying claims and defending insurance companies. And I realized I was not built for that. It wasn't right for me. So I left there and I joined a plaintiff's firm to go after insurance companies. And that was 1989 or somewhere in there, or 1990. And I have been representing injured workers against insurance companies, big corporations, and government ever since. I've kind of fancied myself as the guy that represents the underdog against these large corporations. And I've been doing it, like I said, for 30 years. And I want to take it now to the next level at the state level. I had a couple of instances that I guess I could share when I was representing a couple of different people. They were kind of important in my life in terms of my inspiration for being in the Senate. One of those cases was a case of Mr. Coleman. It was Coleman versus Oregon State Corrections. And what that was his prison guard, and he was in a situation where he was forced to go into the prison cell with the person that was coughing his guts out, and it would constantly be coughing. And when he was done with that, a couple of weeks later, he tested positive for tuberculosis. And we tried to prove that he got the tuberculosis from that cell, and we lost. And we lost because we couldn't get the health information on that prisoner because of HIPAA rules and other privacy rules. So I thought that was horribly unfair. So we appealed it, went up to the appellate courts, and finally, actually went all the way to the Supreme Court of Oregon. And the Supreme Court of Oregon finally said, gosh, that's not fair. Let's change the law a little bit, or let's interpret the law a little differently. And then you get the right to learn certain things, and things will be fair again in terms of the process. And I thought, well, gosh, that's a big change, and that will help with all infectious diseases. That'll help with COVID. Well, I didn't know about COVID then, but that would help with COVID. That helps with everything, tuberculosis or other infectious diseases. And I thought, how cool is it that you can make one little change in the law for one person, but it can affect tens of thousands of people for the better? And I kind of got inspired that, maybe that is a direction I wouldn't mind going in the future. But of course, I was raising kids. I have 5 kids. 1 foster child, 3 of my own, and 1 is my fiance's son. And that keeps your hands pretty busy. I was able to do city council work and things like that, but only now that they're all grown up and moved out. My youngest just graduated from McNary this last summer. Only now do I have the bandwidth that I can actually devote the time to be a senator. And so I was like, gosh, that'd be kind of cool to kind of make a positive change like that. Now it sounds a little corny, but it's real. And then the other case I had that was like that was the case of Maria Hernandez versus Leopoldin Orchards. In a similar situation, there was one person that she was taking care of her husband. She was a migrant worker. Her husband fell out of a cherry tree or an apple tree, broke his leg. She was taking care of her husband. And in the course of taking care of him, she was walking a bedpan into an outhouse, and the outhouse was in such slippery condition that she fell and broke her arm in 3 or 4 places. She's in the hospital for 4 days, ran up huge bills, and of course had no insurance. And workers' comp was denied because they said you weren't working at the time. But I thought that was unfair. I took that to the Court of Appeals, changed the law, and now we have what they call the bunkhouse rule. And the bunkhouse rule now covers all employees from all that are required to stay in a premises, like a camp, farm camp, or like could be a fireman, or it could be a nurse working in a hospital spending the night. But if you're injured because of the condition of the premises, you're covered. And again, I thought, these changes in the law can really affect tens of thousands of people to the betterment. And so again, that was kind of a motivation for me. Anyway, so that's kind of my life work, has been representing underdogs against these insurance companies and so on. In terms of my service and to the community, I've always been kind of motivated to do that through my whole life. From when I was young, doing Meals on Wheels, till being in college. I worked on in law school, I was on the Constitution Court, trying to help out in that way. And then my bandwidth grew, and I became able to be on city council because of my experience, and bandwidth grew. And so I did that for several years. For 10 years, I was on the Kaiser City Council, and I served on over 40 committees that I kind of out of my way to make sure that I would be in all these different committees that kind of represent different aspects and different interest groups and different neighborhoods and so on. And so, like I said, it's over 42. I could show you my resume. I was surprised by the different number of them, but it was really kind of a full breadth of the community, because I represent these people. And when I was on the city council, it was my opinion. It was just like my job as an attorney. You represent these people, and you can't represent people if you don't know them and if you don't know what their issues are. So that's why I got so involved in that, and I would do that as a senator as well. I guess I'm best known for spearheading the Kaiser Rapids Park project and most of the amenities that are in there. I spearheaded the, I was the head of the committee, but I was also the guy that kind of came up with the idea. And a lot of people in government will relate to this. If you come up with an idea, the mayor normally turns to you and says, "Great, you get to head the committee to try to make that happen." And that's kind of what happened. And so we had kind of an impossible task of raising millions and millions of dollars in order to make the park happen. And we only had a budget of 300 grand. But we leveraged that. We got grants. We made it work, and it came to fruition after all that work. And now we have a marina, a dog park, and a big toy, which I'm very proud of. All kinds of projects there that really do help everybody in the community, regardless of wealth or status or anything. And I could go into that in great detail if you want. But I didn't just work on the Kaiser Station. I worked on other projects and got them done too. I worked like crazy on Kaiser Station. I love it or hate it. It was a lot of work, and we ended up getting it there and helping the economy and helping get jobs. And most of all, it provided a lot of revenue. Not most of all, but in addition to all that, it provided a lot of revenue to the city urban renewal funds, so that we were able to close the urban renewal district, which was kind of a win-win. The fire station got more money, the city got more money, the library got more money, and we were also able to afford to pay for a city hall and a police station that we created, a new community center. All those things in Kaiser that you see that are kind of cool in their city hall area, that all came on my watch when I was a council president of Kaiser. And so I didn't do it alone, but I was certainly involved in all those projects. And I was really looking for win-win situations like that. So, that's kind of my background generally. Why I'm running. Do you want me to just keep rambling or
No, you're good. You're good. You're still within. You've still got 2 minutes. So
I got 2 minutes. Okay, then I better hurry.
You go as
All
long
right.
as you want. You're doing fine.
Well, on 2 minutes, and I'll try to fit in why I'm running and my values here. So why I'm running, there's basically 3 reasons why I'm running. The first one is the issues. And all the issues kind of have the same thing in common. I'm kind of fighting for the underdog, especially against big government, big business, big insurance companies, or whatever. And so those issues are like fighting for the homeless, those people searching to find affordable housing. I could go into this in detail if people have questions. I'm fighting for healthcare for everyone, to make it affordable. And quite frankly, I think we can take it a step beyond that to healthcare for all. I know that's a big lift, but I think it's a worthy goal to work for. And then we also, and to make it a win-win situation, to me, that's the critical component of healthcare for all that I really want to emphasize. Is I really think we can make it win-win. We don't have to just burden one aspect of society with the whole bill and they'll just fight it to the death. I think there's enough money being spent on healthcare right now that if we can just get everyone their money back, and I could go into this in detail, but I think we can make it win-win. And if we can't, we can do the best we can with what we got, you know? And so the other thing I want to work for is seniors. I could go into this in much detail, but I don't think they've been fully considered in all the planning that we do. And I'm not just talking about end life care or anything like that. I'm talking about how you need to take care of sidewalks so that your walker can go through the streets. We need to think of that as a senior issue. We need to take care of you know, everything from the situations that happened with COVID to playgrounds. In our city, we had a playground with bark chips, and I'm like, you know, that didn't work so well because the grandparents couldn't walk over the bark chips to sit on the bench, and they couldn't be with their kids. So we got sponge surfaces. Cost more, but you know, it is important. So even when you're thinking about a playground for children, you really also have to plan for seniors and what their needs are. And so I think that was kind of overlooked. I kind of had a big awakening to that when I was on city council, and I've carried that forward. I think we also got to work on campaign finance reform, and also, well, there's other issues as well, including kind of returning to statesmanship and common respect for each other, and not having this us versus them mentality as much as we have. It's getting out of hand. Anyway, so that's kind of why I'm running.
Good. Excellent.
Did I do that in 2 minutes? I don't know.
You did a fine job. And one thing I cheated you a little bit, Rich. I was going to say, if you want, I could throw up your map really quick. Was there anything specific to your new district that would be relevant that you'd like us to know?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to show the map? Is that something we share screen, or how does that work?
Here we go.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to talk about this, or?
Yeah. Are you all seeing this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So if you look at the map, what happened is in the old district, Kaiser was part of District 13, and it went up to Newburgh and Dundee and kind of spread like a snake all the way over to the outskirts of Hillsborough. It was crazy. And it was a very heavy Republican district. Meanwhile, our District 11 was basically North Salem and goes all the way down to the river. And it took on a good section of central Salem as well. And it went all the way to Woodburn. And it was a very heavy Democrat district. And both districts were very safe. Kim Thatcher's District 13 was very safe for Republican reelection and candidates. And the same thing with District 11. That's all changed. When they moved Kaiser into District 11, as you see in this map, now the Kaiser is fairly conservative and leans Republican. The other parts of the district lean Democrat. And between the two, you've got a virtual tie. And it is incredible how close this election is. I think the overall we're down maybe a point or two because Kim is a incumbent for the last 15 years. We can make that up. So what happened in the last primary was kind of very interesting. What happened in the primary was that we had more Democrats registered in this district, but more Republicans voted. In fact, the votes for Kim Thatcher and the Republicans, I believe, was pretty damn close to all three of the Democrats that were actually running a much more contested race combined. And that's a really scary thought. The other scary thought is that the total number of Republicans that voted, I believe, was 200 more Republicans voted than Democrats. So when people say this is not a swing district, they're got rocks in their head or something, because this is the most swing district there is. It's just it's right on the bubble. Anything could make it go one way or the other, which is why every vote counts. This is the district we need to put a lot of emphasis into making sure it stays blue, because it could very easily turn red if we let our guard down or we don't work our tails off to get this thing Democratic.
Yeah, so that's one reason I wanted to put the map up. I mean, these redrawn lines have changed everything in so many geographies, and yours is an excellent example. And particularly given who you're running against, I wanted to hear how you were approaching that. Let's open it up for other questions. I see Aileen.
Hi, I'm trying to ask every candidate about where they stand on land use, but I already know that you're really good on land use. So I think what I would like to ask for other people who are on this Zoom is, can you describe the difference between your views and Kim Thatcher's views?
Well, can I describe the difference between black and white? I think we're about as well. First of all, I don't think anyone has to struggle to be on the left of Kim Thatcher. To be blunt, she's pretty far right in most of her views. I don't want to really, I guess, bash her too much, but she is pretty focused on guns and stopping all abortions, and she's pretty focused on critical race theory, and I mean she's really focused on these national Republican issues, and quite frankly, I'm more focused on representing my clientele and bringing the bacon home, bringing it home. I mean, I'm more interested in making sure that Salem's got clean water from the Detroit Lake, and that are from the Sandy Am. And like I did when I was a city councilor, I focus on we want to get our fair share of road money. We want to get our fair share of clean water. We want to get our fair share of we want Bully to enforce the rules here in town. We want healthcare that so people can here in our district can get the healthcare they need, and the housing, and deal with the housing issues, and deal with the homelessness issue and things that are real here that are affecting people in my district. This is kind of what I want to do. I don't know what Kim has done over the last 15 years for the local community, but I think that's kind of the problem. I don't know if anyone knows. I don't think there's been a lot done. I do want to get things done that will make a difference in the lives of the Oregon resident of District 11.
Cool. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eileen. Lee.
Oh, you're mute. I can't hear.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I never do this. I really admire your campaign and the fact that you're really strongly outspoken on universal health care. That's a big issue for me. But I'm also interested in the fact that you worked very successfully in, I assume, was a majority Republican, nonpartisan city council. What are the skills you have, and what are the tricks you use to communicate with folks to build consensus? I'm watching Jamie McLeod Skinner's campaign, and she's really big on this thing of bringing the state together. And I think we all agree that would be a good thing to do. So what are your ideas on how to bring the state together?
Well, I think far more gets done if we focus on commonalities and less partisanship. I mean, everyone kind of says that they want to reach across the aisle, but I mean, the real key is to find, I really want to work on those issues where we can all get together, not make it a him or her thing, not make it I got a lot of things done, quite frankly, when you give away credit a little bit or share credit. It's like, oh, this is a Republican project or this is a Democrat project. Make it a joint project, make it something that we can all take credit for and something we can all work on together. The best project I think I ever worked on was the Big Toy. And that was amazing because here's the expression that I've always remembered, and I think it's very useful, is failure is an orphan, but success has many parents. And that's exactly what happens. If you can convince people that this is a really good idea, whatever it is, and then you let them share in the credit for it, and you say, look, this isn't just me, we're working together. We're both going to be, not just both, maybe get more credit. And don't be so afraid to let the Republicans get a little credit for something. And I know that kind of goes against some of the thing, but you ask how you get things done. You get it done by not making it us versus them, but making it all of us getting something done. And if you have something, the more concrete it is, the more easy it is to do that. That Big Toy project, we got everyone involved. Everyone wanted to take credit for it. Everyone pushed it forward. Everyone did their part. We had 800 parents from every walk of life. It wasn't just the council, it was the whole community. We had rich, poor, black, white, Latino, everybody was working together side by side for their kids. And they were all focused on the goal. They weren't focused on whose project was this. They focused on the goal and they got it done. And quite frankly, it was one of the most heartwarming civic projects I've ever worked on for that. I looked around when all these people working together. And I was like, these guys would never even talk to each other normally, but here they are working together for the kids because they had a common goal and they wanted to get it done. And if we can just get to the base of common goals and focus on those, and I know we have a lot of differences, but let's focus on a couple of good things, start working together on those. I think we can move the ball forward.
Cool. There's I don't know if you can see the chat, Richard. There's a note in
sorry.
there from one of our audience members, and I could just read it for you. It says,
I see it now. Yeah, go ahead and read it.
thank you for being the voice for workers and family members injured in their efforts to aid others or while at work. I might ask that in the future, when making reference to the prison worker, please refer to him as a correctional officer instead of a prison guard. I worked for DOC for 38 years and it was more involved than just guarding the inmates. Again, thank you for your work. I have a lot of friends who still work for the department and believe this distinction is important. Thanks, Tina.
Well, I thank you very much, Tina. I'm new. I've got a list that my campaign manager gave me, and now I'm going to add this to the list, things I can't say anymore. I just, I'm learning every day. It's on the job training, and it's not easy to keep track. But I didn't mean to offend anyone, and I do see how correctional officer would be more correct, and I will do everything I can to use that term in the future. In terms of protecting workers, I would like to take it another step with correctional officers, and quite frankly with teachers. I think is the biggest area. They're exposed to so many people in a confined area, even store workers and things like that, where you have crowds. I would love to see the presumption on infectious diseases, especially when you're talking about a pandemic. I'd love to see the presumption reversed. We did that with the firemen with some lung-related diseases that are specific to firemen. We could do it with infectious diseases in relation to pandemic-related diseases for some of these frontline workers. I think it's the least we could do is reverse the presumption so that these people will be taken care of. Correctional officers, teachers, grocery workers, basically all those essential workers that we need to be in contact with people. And then when they get infected, we need to stand behind them.
Richard, there's another question there in the chat. Will you name an example of a time you reached out to opposing parties and were able to bridge a relationship without compromising your values?
Well, the big toy was one project that we worked on. The park projects are kind of straightforward on that. Here's another one with healthcare for all. I went to the debate on healthcare for all. It was a Zoom call. Wonderful group, wonderfully motivated individuals. Many of you, I think, are on those committees. I think Lee might have been there as well. And they were trying to figure out how to finance healthcare for all. And I'm like, yes, we want to do this. We got to get this done. But in my hearing about how it's planned to be financed, there was a 10% tax on wages and a 10% surcharge being thought of. And I'm like, well, gosh, if somebody was a high paid employee, let's say they're making $20,000 or $200,000 or something, they're going to pay $20,000 tax, and the matching tax would be $40,000. So if you're paying $40,000 for that employee's health insurance compared to $12,000 they're paying now, you're going to make some enemies of the Chamber of Commerce, and everybody that has their own business that's making decent money or really good money. And so we don't need those kind of enemies. And so trying to reach across the divide and let the business community's interests be known by the healthcare for all group, so we can start taking those interests into consideration, kind of, I don't want to say advocating for the business groups, but kind of. And then also advocating for healthcare for all, yes, and looking for a win-win that we can bring everyone together. And I would want to make, my crowning achievement, if it can ever happen, is to get business to understand that if they're relieved of the obligation of paying for health insurance, they can get behind this program and it'll be a win-win. And we're not going to just substitute it with a tax that's 10 times higher than they're paying now. So, that's the kind of reaching across the aisle, trying to deal with the Chamber of Commerce issues, trying to also simultaneously deal with the people that don't want to pay for health insurance or can't, and then try to make it work together. Now, I've got some ideas of how we can do this and bringing together all the federal resources that are involved, like Kitsopper did when he first started Oregon Health Plan, to go out and get the money for Obamacare. Now that's a tremendous amount of money. Get the money that's spent on those subsidies, get the money that's spent on Medicare and Medicaid and all those things, trying to get the pile of money as big as possible. And then then give people back the money they paid on premiums, because if you're going to switch over, you don't have to have health insurance. You should get the money equivalent. I better stop now. Okay. Anyway, the idea is, I think there's an opportunity there, and I'd like to keep pursuing that to
We just
reach
have one more-
across, bring them all
We'll take
together.
one more question from Bobby Cade, and then we'll have you do your closing statement. Bobby, you're up.
Thank you. I do think you and Deb Patterson have a lot in common, and you'll make a heck of a team. My question is, who are some of your endorsers?
Oh, I have first responders. I have the Oregon State Firefighters Council. I have the Oregon State Police Association, Police Officer Association. So I have the first responders, citizen groups. I have the Oregon State Council for Retired Citizens. For retail workers, I've got the UFCW, United Food and Commercial Workers. For trade unions, I have the AFL-CIO, the IDEW, which is electricians, the laborers, which is LIUNA, iron workers, local 29, UI local 290, plumbers and steam fitters, the Pacific Northwest carpenters. For the farm workers union, and Latinx outreach, I have Pacun has endorsed me. For education, I have the American Federation of Teachers, the Oregon Education Association, the Salem Kaiser Education Association, the Association of Salem Kaiser Education Support Professionals, and Stand for Children. For the BIPOC, LGBTQIA, and women's rights groups, we have both Planned Parenthood and Basic Rights of Oregon are supporting me. For government workers and others, SEIU, which is pretty important in this area especially. We have their endorsement. That's the Service Employees International Union, and Ask Me, with American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. I've been an attorney for 30 years representing injured workers. So of course I also have the OTLA endorsement, Oregon Trial Lawyers Association. For environmental and conservative groups, I have OLCV, which is the Oregon League of Conservation Voters. And for mothers and caretakers, I have the Mothers PAC. And there are
Impressive list. Thank you.
others coming.
I didn't know the list was going to be that long. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let you in. No, I'm kidding. That was great. Thank you. Great question, Bobby. Thank you. Richard, just if you could give us just a brief closing statement, maybe like 2-3 minutes, your very best.
Well, I've kind of told you a little bit about my life and why I'm doing this. The real reason is I'm doing the best I can with what I have while I have it. And I did that from when I was in school, like I said earlier a little bit. I did that when I growing up. I did that when I was serving on the city council. And now I have the ability to move into the Senate, because I have 30 years experience of fighting for the underdog, of fighting against government, and I've got success. And I think that I do have a history of representing clients, but I have a history of successfully representing clients and my clientele and my constituents when I was on the city council. My entire history is about getting things done. And I want to move that into the Senate and get things done now. And I want more than just to work on the exciting topics of the day. Like I talked about, I want to help my constituents get their fair share of state and federal resources. I want to make sure we have clean water in schools and all those things. But here's the main thing. My needs are fairly irrelevant. What I'm interested in is representing my constituents. I was almost going to say my clients, but I kind of think of it that way. I've been an attorney for 30 years. I represent other people's interests my whole life. That's what matters. And so all I want to do is to continue with that, take it to the next level. And we all want to, like I say, do the best we can with what we have while we have it. I know I'm not going to live forever. I want to spend this next chapter of my life doing something worthwhile and meaningful. And that means advocating for the interests of my district. And that means advocating for the interests of my clients. And that's you. That's District 11. And if you elect me, I won't let you down.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Richard. Really appreciate you joining us tonight. Thanks so much for your time. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you.